We just like, if we had been rushing to an appointment, we just sit there and just talk and talk and talk. And it's really a pleasure to have E. Ethelbert Miller, who is really a national treasure, to be with us here. He responded immediately when I asked him to be here with us here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe it was Prophet Muhammad who once said, the search of knowledge is an obligation laid on every Muslim. When I came to Howard University in 1968, I was a young boy of 17. I had left the South Bronx and headed south and found myself trying to learn how to swim in a river of blackness. The poet Sterling Brown would describe the attraction of the Southern Road, and so I soon learned the meaning of the blues. When I came to Howard University, this place was known as the capstone of Negro education. It was a place filled with history and even folklore. There were tales of how in the old days the Howard boys from the medical school would abduct people near 4th Street, and they would disappear, never to be seen again. Who here can explain this? Or maybe for a moment we should stop and ask ourselves, when did Howard begin to call itself the Mecca? And why? And are we worthy of such a name? I remember once standing on the corner near the Starbucks on Georgia Avenue, and I looked across the street and I saw Dr. Suleiman Nyang. He was wearing a gray coat and a gray hat, and his beard was gray, and the sky gray. But when he crossed the street and saw me, his face became the sun, and his smile was filled with warmth. And he crossed the street bringing with him the light. In these dark times, when so much around the world seems to be broken and in need of repair, running into Dr. Nyang is a true blessing. There is a way he stops and pulls you aside and speaks into your ears. I praise this man for his kindness and generosity. At times I'm often lost in this world, and I have no idea of direction or why it seems as if a storm is always on the horizon. If I cannot find Noah, then let me find Yang. Dr. Suleiman Yang is a man who loves knowledge, and he loves teaching. And for some of us, he is the face of Islam. And maybe this is why today we should pause for a moment and perhaps turn the face of history to his face. The work of Dr. Yang is best outlined at the end of his book, Islam in the United States of America, which was published in 1999. And with all due respect to the singer Prince, let us party, and let me read it like it was 1999. This is what Dr. Yang wrote. We must always remember that we live on a planet that is shrinking daily because of our own accomplishments as creatures of God, the Creator. Unless and until we learn to speak to each other in a language that reflects our common roots in Adam, this dialogue is impossible. We must recognize that here on earth, we are truly the carpenters and masons charged with the task of building not another Tower of Babel, but a Kaaba of human responsibility, a church of human love, and a temple of justice among men, women, and children on this planet. When I think of Dr. Suleiman Yang, I think of a person committed to interfaith dialogue. I think of a man who believes in King's beloved community. So it is fitting this evening, here at this hilltop, this place some call the Mecca, that we would honor a man who is a Muslim scholar, a man who is a believer not just in his faith, but in us, a man who believes we can build a better world and that faith can be made visible. Tributes must turn into tributaries. So I look to my brother Suleiman Nyang so that I will know which way the river bends. And yes, there is a river, and that river is the river Nyang, forever flowing, forever reminding us what life is about. When poets stop at this river, there is no need for poetry. Words turn into light, and with the end of darkness, we are given back our sight.
Thank you, Ethelbert. And to introduce our keynote guest, I'm going to call on Makeda Njoroge. Makeda is one of our stellar students in the undergraduate program. She is one of few students in the College of Arts and Sciences who's carrying a perfect 4.0. She's also in the honors program. So it's really a pleasure to introduce Makeda Njoroge, who's going to introduce Professor Martin.
Ali A. Mazrui is the Albert Schweitzer Professor in the Humanities and Director of the Institute of Global Cultural Studies at Binghamton University, State University of New York. He is also Albert Lusuli Professor at Large at the University of Jos in Nigeria and the Andrew D. White Professor at Large, Emeritus and Senior Scholar in Africana Studies at Cornell University. Dr. Mazrui has also been appointed Chancellor of the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in Kenya, an appointment made by Kenya's head of state. Mazrui was Ibn Khaldun Professor at Large, Graduate School of Islamic and Social Sciences, Leesburg, Virginia, from 1997 to 2000. He was also Walter Rodney's Professor at the University of Guyana, Georgetown, Guyana, between 1997 and 1998. Born in Mombasa, Kenya, Mazrui obtained his BA with distinction from Manchester University in England, his MA from Columbia University in New York, and his doctorate from Oxford University in England. For 10 years, he was at Makerere University, Kampala, Uganda, where he served as head of the Department of Political Science, Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, as well as Dean of the Faculty of Law. Professor Mazrui also served as Professor of Political Science between 1974 and 1991, and as Director of the Center for Afro-American and African Studies between 1978 and 1981 at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan. He has also been visiting scholar at Stanford, Chicago, Colgate, Singapore, Australia, Malaysia, Oxford, Harvard, Bridgewater, Cairo, Leeds, Nairobi, Tehran, Denver, London, Ohio State, Baghdad, McGill, Sussex, Pennsylvania, and so forth. Dr. Mazrui has also served as special advisor to the World Bank. He has served on the board of directors of the American Muslim Council in Washington, D.C., and served as chair of the board of the Center for the Study of Islam and Democracy in Washington, D.C. He is also on the board of the Center for Muslim-Christian Understanding, Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., and is a fellow of the Institute of Governance and Social Research, Jos, Nigeria. His more than 30 books include Towards a Pax Africana, published in 1967, The Political Sociology of the English Language in 1975, A World Federation of Cultures, An African Perspective in 1976, Cultural Forces in World Politics in 1990, The Power of Babel, Language and Governance in Africa's Experience, co-author Alamin M. Mazrui, 1998, and launched in the House of Lords, London, at a historic ceremony saluting Mazrui's works. Islam Between Globalization and Counterterrorism in 2006, A Tale of Two Africas, Nigeria and South Africa as Contrasting Visions in 2006, and The Politics of War and the Culture of Violence in 2008. He has also published a novel entitled The Trial of Christopher Okigbo in 1971. Dr. Mazrui's most influential articles of the last 40 years have been republished by Africa World Press in 3 volumes under the overall editorship of Dr. Twain Falola of the University of Texas. Mazrui's Millennium Harvard Lectures have been published under the title The African Predicament and the American Experience, A Tale of Two Edens in 2004. Dr. Mazrui was president of the African Studies Association of the United States between 1978 to 1979, and vice president of the International Congress of African Studies between 1979 and 1991. He is also vice president of the World African Society in London. Dr. Mazrui has been elected an honorary fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences and member of the College of Fellows of the International Association of Middle Eastern Studies. In 1979, Dr. Mazrui delivered the prestigious annual Wreath Lectures of the British Broadcasting Corporation. Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, awarded him the Du Bois Garvey Award for Pan-African Unity. In 1999, he delivered the Eric Williams Memorial Lecture sponsored by the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. In 2007, Dr. Mazrui was elected president of the Association of Muslim Social Scientists in Washington, D.C. In 1998, Professor Mazrui was elected to the Board of Trustees of the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies, England, and to the Board of Directors of the National Summit on Africa in Washington, D.C. The year 1998 also marked the publication of the first comprehensive annotated bibliography of all Mazrui's works, printed and electronic, from 1962 to 1997. The Mazruiana collection, compiled by Abdul S. Bemath and published by Sterling in New Delhi and Africa World Press in New Jersey. An enlarged edition of Bemath's book has been published under the title of the Mazruiana Collection Revisited, New Dawn Press and Africa Institute of South Africa, 2005. Another book entitled The Global African, A Portrait of Ali A. Mazrui, edited by Omari H. Kokole, was published by Africa World Press in 1998. In 2005, the American journal Foreign Policy in Washington, D.C., and the British journal Prospect in London nominated Dr. Ali Mazrui among the top 100 public intellectuals alive in the world as a whole. Mazrui was earlier elected an icon of the 20th century by Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, USA. In 2007, he was nominated by the Living Legends Award by the Economic Community of West African States and the African Communications Association. And with that, I'll ask that you all please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker for tonight and renowned world scholar, Ali A. Mazrui.